හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Friday the 3rd of November 2023. Transition to clean energy. Sri Lanka seeks expert advice to execute green energy projects. President to press COP23 to understand funding constraints of vulnerable countries when most of the money is directed towards global wars. Scope expanded. Electoral Reforms Commission expanded with increased powers. Explore alternative fiscal strategies. Ceylon Chamber of Commerce concerned over proposal to increase VAT rate to 18%. Warns such hikes may inadvertently lead to further economic contraction.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසින් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Indivari Amuata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a very warm welcome. You're joining us tonight on your primetime English news service. Let me take you straight to your top stories tonight. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says Sri Lanka will seek advice from multilateral development banks and bilateral partners to make proper plans for harnessing more renewable energy as the country aims to produce green energy through renewable energy projects. Addressing the International Climate Change Forum yesterday, the President elaborated on plans of the Sri Lankan government to establish the Climate Change University in Sri Lanka and said government has already allocated some 600 acres overlooking the Kothmale Reservoir for the university.
Sri Lanka's first International Climate Change Forum convened at the Temple Trees under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday. The conference, which was attended by the Global Director for Environment at the World Bank, Valerie Hickey, United Nations Development Programme Resident Representative Asusa Kubota, ambassadors, high commissioners and other officials concluded today. The first International Climate Change Forum comes in as Sri Lanka's latest effort made towards combating climate change and transitioning into a green economy. Speaking at the conference, President Wickremesinghe highlighted Sri Lanka's ambitious plans for environmental sustainability and economic growth.
We have to identify our potential. Everyone says Sri Lanka is small. Being small has an advantage. But we have a large dry zone and our population is only 22 million. So we are going to have excess green energy. Not merely solar, wind power, hydrogen, but is what we are now focusing on. And Sri Lanka at the moment do not have the expertise to make the plans. So we are reaching out to the multilateral development banks and to our bilateral partners to get that expertise to put together a new plan. So firstly, Sri Lanka economic strategy is to go for high growth, to see what we can raise commercially. I'd like to see most of the money is raised commercially. Secondly, to promote this change in Sri Lanka as well as in other countries, we have now committed ourselves to establishing the International Climate Change University. I would like this university to be an international stakeholder university, not a Sri Lankan university. We've already set apart 600 acres overlooking the Kothmale Reservoir for this university. Thirdly, Sri Lanka is building its capacity on climate finance. When we look at the scenario, the capacity on climate finance and the discussions are limited mainly to the north, to the multilaterals and a few of the larger voices such as China. Rest of us do not have that capacity. It is necessary to build up our capacity on climate financing. I put together the highest team possible, advisor on economic stabilization, the secretary to the Ministry of Finance, governor of the central bank and secretary to the Ministry of Environment, together with a group. Not me to look at Sri Lanka, but to be able to participate in the discussions that are taking place globally. Because this is the thing the global south lacks. We do not have that expertise, nor have we built it up in regard to climate finance. We have the whole issue of compensation, funding, loss and damage fund. And that is where the big fight will take place. Is it a narrow or a broad approach on this issue? The North will like to limit it to the islands that are under threat. The South wants to include all. I think the islands under threat is essential, but we have to at least include those parts outside the islands, in our areas or in the South and in the North, which are vulnerable. If you don't take the whole of the globe, at least take in the south, take the areas that are vulnerable. Let's start with that. And what is the contribution? We were going to double our 2019 contribution to 2025, which was going to be about 300 billion US and to about 500 by 2050. We are nowhere close to that. How are you going to find this? How are you going to raise it? Who's going to contribute? The fact is the money is there. In this year, the contribution to Ukraine and Israel, I think, would have met more than half the demand here. I'm not saying not to give to Israel, or if the Americans say not to give to Ukraine, that is their decision. But it means there's also money available for the rest of the world. But that is not forthcoming. So this is the big issue. What are you going to do? Sri Lanka will certainly participate and express our views forcefully, but with the objective of making it a success and not to allow it to be broken up.
Documents enabling the execution of projects for the promotion of Buddhist ties between India and Sri Lanka were exchanged by the Indian and Sri Lankan officials during a special event held yesterday. The projects for the promotion of Buddhist ties between the two nations will be funded by a $15 million grant from the Government of India. The event held at the President's house yesterday was held under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe and visiting Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The President's media unit reported that the grant is expected to be allocated towards various activities including construction and renovation of Buddhist monasteries, capacity development and cultural exchanges. In recognition of the evolving economic landscape in Sri Lanka, both nations also agreed to recalibrate the grant amount from Sri Lankan rupees to Indian rupees, align it with the prevailing market conditions. The Indian Finance Minister, who is on a 3-day visit to Sri Lanka, also attended the India-Sri Lanka Business Summit and NAM 200, where she delivered the keynote address prior to attending yesterday's event at the President's house. Also in news tonight, President Ranil Wickremesinghe expanded the scope of a commission of inquiry appointed to propose electoral reforms while increasing its composition by one number amid concerns raised by some senior lawyers. The commission, chaired by former Chief Justice Priyasad Deb, now comprises 10 members and is expected to obtain and submit information, investigate, inquire into and examine all existing election laws and regulations and take necessary recommendations for the amendment of election laws according to a Gazette notification issued yesterday.
Yesterday, President Wickremesinghe issued a fresh Gazette notification widening the membership of the Commission of Inquiry appointed to propose electoral reforms by one member and expanding its powers. The Commission is mandated to propose revisions to electoral laws that align with contemporary requirements and uphold the integrity of political parties. According to the Gazette, the Commission comprises retired Chief Justice President's Counsel Vevage Priyasad Gerard Depp, Sundara Marumanayagam, Sena Nayak Alisandra Lage, President's Counsel Nalin Jayanta Besekara, Rajitha Naveen Christopher Senaratna Pereira, Ahmed Lebe Mohamed Salim, Sagarika Delgoda, Sriyani Nimaka Fernando, Vitaran Lage Deepani Samantha Rodrigo, and Alan David, who is the latest addition to the Commission. According to the Gazette notification, the primary tasks of this Commission are to thoroughly examine the existing election laws and formulate recommendations for their improvement. These recommendations extend to guidelines on the responsible utilization of media by political parties and independent groups. The Commission is also entrusted with gathering information, conducting investigations and delivering recommendations regarding the implementation of a code of conduct that governs the conduct of political parties, enhancing the regulations concerning party registration and ensuring the actions are transparent and accountable to the public. The Commission is also tasked with addressing several critical issues, including augmenting the representation of women and youth in political processes, reducing the time between the announcement of an election and the release of results, and exploring the possibility of electronic voting using modern technology as an alternative to traditional paper ballots.
Well, the provincial token strike launched by the Government Medical Officers Association was suspended at noon today. Today's token strike was launched in the Northern Province at 8 a.m. and was scheduled to continue for a period of 24 hours. The series of token strikes launched by the GMOA in protest over several concerns, including the government's inability to retain doctors in the country and to counter the collapse of the health system and salary increments, were the demands put forward by the doctors.
The Government Medical Officers Association launched a token strike yesterday, protesting the government's failure to retain doctors in Sri Lanka in order to counter the collapse of the health system. The first token strike was launched in the Uva province yesterday, while today's token strike was launched in the Northern Province at 8 a.m. The token strike was scheduled to continue for 24 hours. However, as the token strike was underway, the Government Medical Officers Association held a special meeting. During the meeting, a decision was made to suspend provincial strikes from 12 p.m. today.
පළාත් මට්ටමින් ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙච්ච පැය 24 සංකේත වැඩවර්ජන ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය අද දහවල් 12 ඉඳන් తాවකාලිකව අත්හිටවන්න තීරණය කළා. ඒකක් තමයි ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ පැත්තෙන් අපිට ලැබිච්ච පණිවිඩ සහ ප්‍රතිචාර. ජනාධිපති ආර්ථික කටයුතු උපදේශකතුමත් සමග විශේෂ සාකච්ඡාවක් අපිට ලැබලා දුන්නා. ඒ වගේම එන 9 වෙනිදා ජනාධිපතිතුමා සමග විශේෂ සාකච්ඡාවක් රජයේ වෛද්‍යාරික සංගමයට ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒ අනුව සැලසුම් කළ තිබිච්ච පළාත් මට්ටමේ වැඩවර්ජන ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Following the decision of the GMOA, doctors of the Northern Province reported back to work at noon today. Meanwhile, a meeting was held today between the United Trade Union Alliance and the Government Medical Officers Association. At the meeting, discussions centered on the means through which a 20,000 rupee salary increment would be achieved via the upcoming budget.
මේ සියලු සේවකයන්ගේ වැටුප රුපියල් 20000 වැඩි කරන එකට ඒකාබද්ධ අරගලයකට ඔවුන් එකගත්වයේ පළ කරා. එස අපි ආණ්ඩුවට අවධාරණය කරනවා අත්‍යවශ්‍ය සේවා නිවේදන ඒව මුකුත් අපිට අදාළ නැහැ. අවුරුදු 7ක වැටුප් වැඩිවීමක් නැතුව සිටපු සේවක පිරිසක් තමයි මේ පාරට බැස්සේ. ඒ නිසා ඔවුන් එක්ක සෙල්ලම් කරන්න සූදානම් එපා.
ජනාධිපති වෘත්තීය සමිතියේ අධ්‍යක්ෂක ජෙනරාල්වරයා කියන මාධ්‍යමක් කියලා මේ වැටුප් වැඩි වෙනවා කියලා තියෙද්දි මේ බොරුවට දඟලනවා මේ වෘත්තීය සමිතියේ මේ රාජ්‍ය සේවකයෝ.
ජනාධිපති උපදේශක වැටුප් වැඩි වෙන ගාන කියන්න. හරි සරල එකක් අපි කියන්නේ.
නොවැම්බර් මාසේ 13 වෙනිදා ආණ්ඩුවේ අයවැය ඇතුලේ රුපියල් 20000ක අවම දීමනාව හෝ වැටුප් වැඩි කිරීම අත්‍යවශ්‍යයි. ඒ වගේම 2016 පස්සේ රාජ්‍ය සේවකට ඇතුල් වෙන රාජ්‍ය සේවක සහෝදර සහෝදරියන්ගේ විශ්‍රාම වැටුපේ අයිතිය තහවුරු කිරීම අත්‍යවශ්‍යයි. එහෙම නොවුනොත් නොවැම්බර් 13 වෙනිදා පස්සේ එන අරගලයට මුහුණ දෙන්න සූදානම් වෙන්න.
මම හිතන්නේ වැටුප් වැඩිවීමක් කියලා එක සාධාරණයි. හැබැයි ඒ වගේම අනිත් පැත්තෙන් මේ 20000ක වැටුප් ඉල්ලීම සාධාරණද වැටුප් වැඩි කරනවා කියන යෝජනාවක් සම්මත කරලා තියෙද්දි එළියට වහින එක සාධාරණද කියන කාරණේ පිළිබඳව ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe today highlighted that talks were underway with India to adopt Adar, the world's largest biometric ID system, to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has been planning to introduce a digital identity system similar to India's Adar digital identity scheme and to facilitate trade through the system. Speaking at the launch of Infotel exhibition at the BMICH today, the President added that it is pivotal to take measures to overcome difficulties in the education system in the digitalization process.
Infotel 2023 Information Technology Exhibition, organised by the Federation of Information Technology Industry, was inaugurated by President Ranil Wickremesinghe at the BMICH today. Infotel Information Technology Fair is themed Fueling the Digital Economy and is being conducted under the guidance of the State Ministry of Technology.
The country's attention has now come on to the steps we are going to take to develop the digital economy. Yesterday night I also spoke at a discussion with the Indian Minister of Finance, who was here, about about digital economy itself. Certainly, we had taken on the Adar system, which we are developing. Nevertheless, with Adar system, we are talking with India of getting the whole system over, as I discussed with Prime Minister Modi when I visited there. Firstly, we need the personnel. We need the human resources. As the Minister of Education said, the school system is not fully geared. How can you supplement the school system? How can you all help out in the school system? We can even work together, sharing costs if it's of benefit to the school system. There's no other way. So it's up for you all now to see how you can come up with overcome some of the difficulties we face, especially I have mentioned here on education and on the market strategy. There have been many other issues that will come up, but we haven't got too much time. So all I can tell you is to do it on the run and do it quick, otherwise the technology will overtake you.
Welcome back. We take you to your business news segment. The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce has raised concern over the proposal to increase value-added tax component to 18%, saying that the government should consider other options to increase revenue. While recognizing the government's commitment to revenue enhancement, the trade body highlighted the need to evaluate the broader economic ramifications of such a decision.
The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, raising concerns over the government increasing the value-added tax to 18%, stated that the purchasing power of the public would be further strained by the tax hike amidst the current economic conditions, which already includes income tax hikes, electricity tariff hikes and fuel price hikes. The Chamber of Commerce said the household consumption expenditure has gone down since 2021 and added that the country should focus on reviving economic growth through reform measures. The Chamber further said such hikes can indirectly lead to further economic contraction, failing to achieve the government's expected revenue gains. The Chamber recommended that the government explore alternative fiscal strategies, including refining budgetary practices and reducing undue borrowing. It further said that the government's revenue collection mechanism should go through a long overdue modernization to address challenges. The statement also highlighted that the Revenue Administration Management Information System demands further enhancement for maximum efficacy. The Chamber further said it is ready to have a constructive dialogue with the government on these crucial matters, aiming to achieve a fiscal approach that ensures sustainable economic growth.
The 5 directors of Onax DT, a private firm suspected of involvement in fraudulent pyramid schemes, were remanded on orders of the Colombo Magistrates Court. Accordingly, the 5 suspects who were arrested by the Financial Crimes Investigation Division were remanded until the 16th of November, when the case was taken up today. During the hearing today, the President's counsel representing the CID said that Onax DT had conducted a series of promotional activities during the past 15 months, promising to triple investments of its customers. Also, during the freezing of accounts, it was revealed that the last Onax DT account had a deposit of 429 million rupees. During the hearing, a request to grant bail to suspects was declined by the court, as the Banking Act prevents any firm that is a non-financial company from accepting deposits. On 24th of August, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka banned 9 entities, including Onax DT, that had conducted pyramid schemes in Sri Lanka, prohibited in the country, warning that any individual who directly or indirectly initiates, offers, promotes, advertises, conducts, finances, manages or directs a prohibited type of pyramid scheme shall be guilty of punishable offence. Earlier in July, Colombo Chief Magistrates Court froze 6 board members of Onax DT with deposits totaling 790 million rupees. The court also suspended 95 accounts associated with the company. And the Colombo Bourse ended in red today, pushed down by the banking and financial sector stocks. After falling throughout the day, the benchmark all-share price index settled 0.34% lower at 10,789.87. Had National Bank, Sampath Bank and Brown's Investments were the top losers on the index, falling 1.96%, 1.5% and 3.9% respectively. Trading volume on the index fell to 16 million shares from 21 million shares in the previous session. The S&P SL20 index also fell by 0.68% to settle at 3,031.28. The equity market turnover fell to 513.4 million rupees during today's session from 1.01 billion in the last session. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to turnover, while the food and beverage sector was the second highest contributors. Foreign investors in the meantime were net buyers purchasing stocks worth 36 billion rupees, while domestic investors were net sellers purchasing shares worth 443.9 million rupees. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. And that's all from us here tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Indivadi Amuatha. Good night.